Hey, what's up guys? Pat Flynn here. Thank you so much for joining me here on this video where we're going to talk about podcasting versus YouTube. I've recorded over 1,300 episodes of podcasts. I've recently hit 100,000 subscribers on YouTube. Thank you, Team Flynn, for those of you who have supported me to get there. Super awesome. I love both platforms, but if you're going to start with one or focus on one, which one should you start out with? So make sure you stick around, not just because we're going to talk about that, but also because I am going to give away some stuff like we always do on these live streams. So again, thank you for joining me today. Welcome to Team Flynn. If you haven't yet subscribed to the channel, subscribe now. We hit over 100,000 subscribers. I'm looking forward to the next 100,000. So what's up, the Hustle Husbands, Andrew and Brad and Sam? Welcome. Thank you for being here. We have a little chart today, and this is what we're going to go over. I'll explain this in just a moment. And actually, I made a mistake. I was supposed to flip it and then reveal it later. But hey, maybe this will tease you to stay on because we're going to talk about some important stuff. You have video, right? Video, super engaging. You're watching a video right now. Podcasting, passive consumption of much longer form content. Which one is better? We're going to talk about that right now. But I want to say hi to David, Livestream Universe, Sylvania, MMA Pixels, Drew, Kelly, Nick, Patricia. Thank you all so much for the love and the 100,000 subscribers. I cannot believe we got there despite not being able to spell very well. But hey, that's what we do here. Now, I have a couple quick housekeeping announcements for you guys. First of all, I want to announce the winner of the 100K contest. This was a video that was shot 2 weeks ago on a live stream. We're going live every Friday now, it seems. So if you're seeing this right now, look out for another one, perhaps next Friday. We're going to kind of get into this rhythm and see how it goes. But I need to announce the winner of the 100K contest. If you had submitted just a guess of when we were going to hit the 100K subscriber threshold, then that would qualify you. I'm also going to share some of the people who were very close and actually got the date right, but you didn't have to be right in order to qualify. So the winner is Joni from, I feel like Steve Harvey right now. Joni from The Bite Shot. So she has a YouTube channel, which was just happenstance, called The Bite Shot, B-I-T-E, and she does photography of food and teaches that. And she has, I think, like 15,000 subscribers, which is really cool. So she won a 1-hour call with me and a feature in an upcoming YouTube video, which is really cool. We've also had 3 other winners from a contest that I ran back in February. Some of those people didn't even have YouTube channels, but this one did. Joni, congratulations, and we will have already hopefully emailed you. If not, email me, pat@smartpassiveincome.com, and we'll get you hooked up and set up for that. So congrats, Joni, and you're getting congrats from the community here as well. Mina and Severin Clan, Andrew, chest drumroll, yeah, exactly. So, all right, cool. I also want to give a shout out to the list of people I have who got the date right. There were, I think, 400 or 500 guesses. So Alessandro Petra, Luke Kwan Golf, Patrick Gostek, Jake Richards, Nicholas Rodriguez, and Byte by Byte, Byte as in like computer Byte, B-Y-T-E. They got the date right, which was March 21st. Now, we turned 100,000 subscribers here on the channel at 6:16 a.m. And I know, because I was watching very closely. The closest person was Jake Richards. So, Jake, if you're watching this right now, I want to hook you up with a signed copy of Will It Fly. Just send an email to pat@smartpassiveincome.com. So, well done. You were the closest one by just a few hours, which is really cool. Serious Blogger says, what's up? Hey, Pat Flynn says, sensational. Ask Yves or Yivy. Let's see, who else is here? Guys, no matter where you're at, just give me a hello. I want to see you in the chat. And this is an interactive thing, and we'll be going over this actually right now. So let's talk about that. Let's just get right into it. I don't want to hold you longer than I have to. So podcasting versus YouTube. Which one is better? Actually, I want to hear from the community, those of you watching now and maybe the replay. And also, make sure you stick around to the end. I'm doing a giveaway. And by special request, I'm also doing a giveaway for those of you who are watching the replay, too. There'll be a chance for you to actually win something. And I'll announce the winner on next week's broadcast. So make sure you stick around. But hey, I want to hear from you guys, those of you watching live right now. Which one of these do you prefer to create? We're talking about creation here. So I know maybe this is a little bit biased because a lot of you are on video. So maybe a lot of you will say YouTube. But which platform do you like better for creation? We'll start with that question. Do you like YouTube better or do you like podcasting better? Hustle Husband says, podcast is great because I can listen on the go. Podcast for sure. Creation, I love making videos. I love YouTube for creation. Why podcast or YouTube? YouTube extracts video and repurpose as podcast. We'll talk about repurposing in just a moment and how to actually approach that, and even if it is the right thing to do. Patricia says YouTube, podcast insights says podcast, of course. Dustin says podcast. 9 to 5 or 9 to FL or FI says YouTube for sure. Creation, video over podcasting. Wow, we got a lot of division here in the audience. And I'm going to go over these things and I'm going to explain exactly what these mean right now. So comp means competition, meaning how many people are on that platform and where might you be able to best set up so that there's the least amount of competition. So we'll talk about that one, kind of think about which one you think is best for that. Reach, which one has and gives you the most potential reach? So as a creator, by going on either video or podcasting, which one can potentially give you the most reach to find the most people? Now, there's obviously different approaches that you can take. And of course, hopefully on each of these platforms, you're creating great content because that's the secret to anything, right? Like you could have a video channel, you could have a podcast. If it's not great, then it doesn't really, none of this stuff really will mean anything, right? Next is findability. How can a person find an episode that you create or a video that you create? We can kind of determine which one is better from there. See a lot of people saying podcast, video. Wow, there's a lot of division here. I don't know if I saw somebody say Instagram. I'm like, you're not in the right video right now. Anyway, just kidding. Consumption, which one is easier to consume and which one has the most consumption time per publication, essentially. Next, we'll talk about relationship, the relationship that you can build with your viewers or listeners. Which one of these is better? Engagement, which one allows for the most engagement for that piece of content that you create? Analytics. I think that one may be an obvious one for those of you who have done both analytics for podcasting and video. Then we're going to talk about creation, which one is a little easier to create. And lastly, we'll talk about which one is trending recently. And hopefully, those of you watching this, whether live or on the replay, can use kind of the analysis here as a basis and foundation for decisions that you make moving forward. The last thing that I would want you to do, if you're just starting out especially, is to go, I'm going to create a video channel and a podcast right now. The number one fact is when you divide your energy and focus amongst all these things that require its own focus and time and energy and effort, then none of them are going to have the chance to succeed because you're dividing that energy. When you can put all the energy into one of these platforms, whichever one it might be, and we'll see which one we like better at the end and which one you like better at the end. And again, remember, this is my opinion as somebody who's created 1,300 podcast episodes and now over 300 or so videos and 100,000 subscribers. So this is coming from somebody who has been in this world, in each of these worlds, for quite a long time now. The YouTube channel started in 2009. I started podcasting in 2010. All right? If you guys are with me, give me a thumbs up. If you're watching live, give me a high five or some emoji of some kind to let me know that you're there and you're ready to go. So we're going to start with, Mina says, this is my first time attending a live stream, and now you got called out for it too, which is cool. This is so cool, LOL. Depends on the market. Yes, that's true, which is why we're going to go over this analysis, and hopefully you can take this information and move forward in a more educated way with whatever it is that you have going on. Okay, so let's do this. Okay, I got a lot of emojis. The emojis on YouTube are so different than like on Facebook and Instagram, especially like the smiley faces. It kind of looks like a Jello kind of thing. Anyway, okay. So let's talk about competition. Sheer numbers. Let's talk about numbers. On YouTube, I heard recently, and these numbers may be a little off, but they're so far apart that it's going to make sense. So on YouTube, there's right around what I hear 500 million channels. 500 million active channels. On podcasts, there's not even a million yet. So when you talk about sheer number and competition related to, okay, how many of these things are going? Actually, let me pull this down so you can see the whole thing. So 500 million versus 500,000. That's pretty insane when you think about, okay, how many people are there and how many people I have to compete with. Now, in each market, it's going to be different, like I said. But in terms of just competition in the numbers aspect, I'm going to have to go with podcasting. And this is why you're seeing a lot of people podcasting today, is because there's less competition there. You can create an audio file and put it up there, and there's going to be less people to compete with for that particular market that you're in, most likely, because there's a lot of YouTube channels that YouTube's been around for, actually YouTube and podcasting kind of started around the same time, but podcasting is now starting to pick up steam, and it's starting to go mainstream. More people are discovering podcasts. I would say that, I know a lot more statistics related to podcasting in terms of each person, on average, subscribes to 5 podcast episodes and listens to 2 hours a day. Now, I would assume that the numbers are a little bit skewed on YouTube because of certain channels such as gaming channels where people are literally watching for hours. But, in terms of the number of people who are on that platform, I'd have to give that one to podcasting for sure. My voice is out of sync. That's weird. Podcast Insights says, I think you got that stat from my site. Lyndon says, yes. Awesome. Okay, so that's competition. Let's talk about potential reach. So when you create something on a video or a podcast, what is the potential reach there? I think, and this is very obvious, on YouTube, virality is so much more possible. On a podcast, for example, a person might be listening on the go, and just the ability to share that episode is a big hurdle. That is a hard thing to get a person who's listening to your podcast while walking their dog to do versus somebody who's watching a video who can click something and share it and easily have other people share it too, because unlike video, podcasting is not a network or a community. It's its own individual piece of episode that will have to gain some momentum elsewhere, if that makes sense. So yes, it could potentially be in the rankings for certain categories in iTunes, or it could potentially be found in search engines posting back to your website or wherever it might go viral in a particular community, like on a forum if a person spreads it around with some influence. But I got to give it to YouTube for that one. There's so much more potential reach when it comes to YouTube and number of views, if that makes sense. Voice sync is fine. Yeah, Patricia, you might just want to refresh the page, perhaps. That could help. Greetings, Cisco. Good to see you, and thank you for all of you who are watching right now from wherever in the world you're at. We are live right now, and I'm stoked because we're right in the middle of talking about YouTube versus podcasting. Make sure you all stick around because we're going to do some giveaways. I'm going to ask you a couple questions. I'm going to pick one winner from those watching live, and for those of you watching the replay, there'll be a way for you to potentially get selected to win something next week. So stick around. Okay, next we have findability. So this kind of goes along with reach, but think about it. If I'm looking for something, I think a lot of you know this because a lot of you use YouTube specifically. I think you know where my answer is going with this one, or my selection. I've learned so much just from searching and looking things up on YouTube because there's so much content there, but also in terms of your creation, your video versus your podcast. It's so much easier to be found via the search engines, and not just the search engines. Think about this. YouTube has an algorithm that is being perfected all the time to suggest videos that are best for different kinds of viewers. There's an algorithm at play. Not just that, but there's an algorithm with search that is much better than on iTunes as well. So there's search, there's the algorithm, and there's also suggested videos. Yes, there are suggested podcasts, but you don't see them pop up. They don't happen on a video card after a video is finished or after a podcast is finished. You have to actively go from one video to another. And there's, again, the algorithms at play to show a viewer who's watching your video the next best video, which could be yours or somebody else's. You can be found on somebody else's video channel as well, which is a big strategy. Actually, most of my video views on YouTube have come as a result of suggested views on other people's videos. That's not going to happen on podcast. Yes, there is a tab in podcast to see people who listen to this podcast also listen to that one, but that's literally it. So I think it's very obvious here which one we select. For findability, you're going to do YouTube, right? And people are asking, okay, well, can you do both? We'll talk about that at the very end here. So consumption. And by consumption, I mean how many minutes is a person going to be consuming your content? Now, this is a big discovery of mine lately since going very hardcore on YouTube recently, and that is 5 minutes of watch time or more is good. When you have watch time that's over 5 minutes, I mean, that's above average on YouTube. That's a long time in the YouTube world. On a podcast, and thankfully iTunes is coming out with some better analytics that is showing us how much of a podcast episode people are listening to, which wasn't around for years. I mean, just imagine, they're just now coming out with this. People are listening to 80 to 90% of an episode, sometimes over an hour of listening time. So imagine an hour of you and your message, your brand, your voice, your offers, your call to actions in front of a person versus 5 minutes or less. Hopefully more, but most likely less if you're just starting out especially. That's a huge gap in consumption. So I have to give consumption to podcast. And when you think about it, it makes sense, right? People are passively listening to podcasts. They're on the go. They're listening while in the car, right? There's 143 million people every single day who travel in their cars to and from work in the U.S. alone. And many of them are by themselves. And so they're going to be listening to podcasts because it's education on wheels, right? You don't really want to suggest people watch videos on in their car, right? Plus, if you listen to videos, you're going to potentially miss something because video, it's visual, right? So, consumption, I got to give it to podcasting. All right, next let's talk about relationship. Which platform allows you to build a better relationship? Now, let's talk about video really quick. On video specifically, you have the visual, right? You can see me. You see my hands moving. You see my weird mannerisms or whatever, and that just allows you to know me better, right? You don't get that on a podcast. With both, you can hear the voice and you can get into storytelling with both. Both are great for that. With the podcast, however, you're listening to my voice in a very intimate environment. There's no distractions at the same time. You can't click out of a podcast as easily as you can click out of video, which again leads to that length of time that people are listening and consuming your stuff. So honestly, I have to give it to both. Both video and podcasting are great for relationship building. Whichever one you end up focusing on, it's going to allow you to build a deeper relationship with your audience, which is key, right? And both of them, I would say, are a great complement or an addition to a blog that you might have. Or if you wanted to start out on one of these platforms, either one would be great if, and hopefully it is, building a relationship is really important for you. So let's go here and here. I listen to podcasts while I drive. It's awesome, says Cheyenne. Oh, consumption would be podcasts. Lots of time I turn away from YouTube and just listen when nothing but voice is going on. I love YouTube Red, so worth it, says Tim. What's up, Tim? Tim Schmoyer in the house. Go follow him. Video creators. He's helped me out so much. He's a major reason why this channel now is 100,000 subscribers. So thank you, Tim, for being here. I appreciate you. Woohoo, my average view time is 7 minutes and 58 seconds. That's great. That's great, man. That's higher than average for sure. Let's see. Your last video spoke on keeping people on YouTube opposed to leading them away. YouTube is watching that, correct? Yes, that's another thing. YouTube, just to get a little bit into the detail here, I learned this from Tim and Amy and Sean Kennel and also Roberto Blake, who's going to be on Roberto Blake. A lot of you know him. He's coming on the video channel on Tuesday. You'll see him in the Tesla. We're doing tactics in a Tesla with Roberto. A lot of you are loving that mini-series, and thank you for all the feedback for that. So let's keep going here. Let's talk about engagement. Which platform, YouTube or podcasting, allows for better engagement? Well, think about it. We're engaging right now while creating a video. You can thumbs up. You can leave emojis. You can reply. You can leave comments. Can you do that on a podcast? Not directly on the podcast consumption platform. You can do that obviously in a forum where you're talking about that show. You could do that obviously on a blog post where the show notes live and that episode exists. And, I have engagement on my website for particular podcast episodes as well, especially when I have a call to action at the end that says, hey, listeners, go here, leave a comment. You can win this, or what's your opinion on that? The Hustle Husbands is like YouTube, duh. So for sure, YouTube on engagement. In terms of getting your listeners active. John in the house. John Pullum. Hey, John, thank you. Buy your kids an ice cream on me. I look forward to our 15-minute call. I sent an email and Jessica got back to me. Thanks for all that you do. Team Flynn, guys. Follow John. He's awesome. He's been a big fan of SPI and a big member of Team Flynn for the last number of years. He sent me a lot of cool stuff that my kids and I played with, and he also sent me this box that when you open it, a spider comes out, which freaked me out, John. But I love you. Thank you so much. $7.77. I love that too because that's anyway. There's a hidden story related to 777 if you're in one of my courses called Smart from Scratch. But anyway, thank you so much for that, John. I appreciate you, man. That's called a super chat, guys. If you haven't seen one of those before, any of you can pay some money to have your comment be shown and sticky at the top of these chats, which is really cool. So, can you do that on podcasting? No. Can you go live with a podcast? Well, kind of, I guess. Anchor and other ones, they don't necessarily allow you to go live, but it is something that's similar, but you can't get this kind of engagement. So definitely engagement, YouTube, hardcore. Patricia says, yes, a lot of podcasters have a group for sharing and community. Yes, that's true. And there is a lot of engagement, especially if you have a great show. Think about things like Serial. There was so much engagement related to that podcast because people were just talking about it. So again, going back to what we said earlier, make sure you create stuff that is shareable, whether it's a podcast or a video. Just make sure it's something that people would want to share. It's a little bit more of a hurdle to share a podcast, a little bit more hurdle to get engaged with a podcast, but for obvious reasons. All right, next. Let's talk about analytics. So if you haven't done podcasting before, a lot of you are on YouTube. YouTube is blowing my mind with analytics and the things I can learn about how people consume my videos and how people get to my videos. And now they're coming out with even more things. I learned this on Tim's channel recently. They're coming out with more analytics related to impressions. So how often are my videos showing up versus how often are people actually clicking? So very Google-like, and it makes sense because YouTube, is a part of the Google company. But with podcasting, seriously, it is so far behind. The one big complaint I have about podcasts is that podcast analytics are crap. Yes, we understand how many people have downloaded our show from our server, which is really important, obviously. But we don't even understand, of the people who downloaded our episodes, did they even listen to it? Did they even actually get through the episode or through the part where I have the call to action to actually go and subscribe to my email list or whatever? Only recently has iTunes given us as podcasters an analytical tool, which is great, but it's still very limited in what it offers us. It's only tracking who consumes from an iOS 11 plus device, meaning you're on that new on the new iOS, the operating system. Anything 10 and below doesn't even get shown there, right? So I am thankful that iTunes is finally, and Apple is finally giving us stuff to get excited about as podcasters, but it is so far behind. So analytics, I got to give it to YouTube. YouTube's analytics is telling me what's working and what's not. With podcasting, you kind of have to guess or put things into place on your episode so that you can see if it's working or not versus, for example, like, did this episode collect a lot of email subscribers? Did the one before that, things like that. So 7 says, thank you for the information. Cool, thanks, haven't heard of it, says Tim. Hey, Tim says 7 blessings. Podcast Insights. Some companies have better analytics if you use their embedded player, but that's a small percentage. Yes, absolutely right. So I don't know if this is killing you, Podcast Insights, but there's a lot of marks here on YouTube. All right, we got 2 more to go, guys. We're going to talk about creation trending. Make sure you stick around. I got a couple giveaways for you. It's going to happen really fast because we're almost at the end here, but thank you for sticking around. I appreciate you guys for being here. I hope you like this format. I haven't done kind of this thing before. If you're watching live right now, let me know what you think of this. Is this engaging? Is this helpful? I want to know if you think so. Thumbs up or thumbs down. Either one, just let me know. It would be very helpful for me so I can make sure to provide better information for you moving forward. Okay, next let's talk about creation in terms of, which one is easier to create? And I can tell you, by far, that a podcast is so much easier to create. You don't have to worry about the visuals. You can do it in your underwear. I don't do that. Now, a lot of you who listen to the podcast, I shouldn't have said that. Let's rewind. No, I'm just kidding. But in terms of creation, I can batch process. I used to do this when my Ask Pat podcast was coming out 5 days a week. I used to batch process an entire month's worth of episodes in 3 hours. Boom, 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 boom. I get 25 episodes done, and I'd be done for the month. Now, I do batch process my videos as well, and that happens on Tuesday. So if you follow me on Instagram at Pat Flynn, you'll often see me behind the scenes here in the studio filming with Caleb on Tuesdays because we want to get through as many videos as possible that were planned ahead of time. But in terms of creation, you just have to worry about speaking into a quality microphone at home and then uploading it to your server, and then the rest of the world can listen to it. You don't have to worry about the visual engagement that's necessary in a video to make it great. What I've learned, and from people like Tim and Roberto and Amy and Sean and many others, is that in order for a person to stay watching your video, you have to include a lot of visual elements like pattern interrupts and things like that, a lot of different angles. And of course, if the content's great, they're going to stick around, but those things help a person continue to watch your videos. On a podcast, you just have to tell great stories and be engaging and be interesting and give information that's really helpful. And again, remember, people are listening for much longer. So creation, I got to give it to podcasts. I got to give it to podcasting. So batch process. Hey, what's up, CJ? Good to see you. Stan, thumbs up. Thank you. I appreciate that. Barry says, yeah, this is a good format and timing in the UK is perfect. That's good to know because I had no idea. Hustle Husband says, you can do videos in your underwear too if you get you don't know what's underneath this shirt right now. I'm just saying, so that's true. Let's see. Brooke says, video really only works for me because art is so visual. Good point. Again, remember I was talking about niches earlier, or niches for those of you in the UK. But I like niches because the riches are in the niches. The riches in the niches doesn't sound very cool. But yeah, okay, cool. So Tim is Tim Schmoyer from Video Creators, helping change lives one video at a time. Okay, last, let's talk about trending. Now, there's going to be perhaps a little bit of back and forth on this, but I'm going to make it quick. I was at Vid Summit, which is an event put on by Daryl Eves, who I have to also give a big shout out to for helping me get to 100,000 subscribers. Follow Daryl. He has nearly 500,000 subscribers. He talks about YouTube. He knows the guys at YouTube. He has a lot of the latest information about YouTube as well. So I went to Vid Summit, met a lot of those guys. That's actually where I got very connected with the kind and welcoming community that is the YouTube community. The podcasting community is great as well. I'm actually keynoting Podcast Movement, and I'll be speaking at Vid Summit too. So this is like, I'm speaking at both of these kinds of things later this year. But Gary Vaynerchuk spoke on stage at Vid Summit. He was the closing keynote, and he spoke about how all of the video people who were there should be paying attention to audio. And it was really interesting for him to go, Gary V, with a lot of influence, saying, hey, video guys, you guys need to start paying attention to audio, which was really exciting to me because primarily I was a podcaster, and I feel like I still am primarily a podcaster. I mean, if I had to choose one of these to start from scratch, I would choose podcasting mostly because of the creation process and the relationship building process. If I could start with a small, very intimate group of listeners that could become fans who could listen to me much longer, that's going to be a lot easier for me to work with versus, this very crowded space of YouTube. But YouTube has been fantastic too. A lot of things are happening on the YouTube space in my brand that have never happened before because of the videos I'm creating. Anyway, Gary's saying, Alexa and Spotify and iHeartRadio, which has gone bankrupt. But, video is great, but audio is something you should definitely pay attention to. And when it comes to the sheer numbers and things that are finally starting to happen in the podcasting space, I really do, and this may be a little bit biased, but I think the trend is upward, much bigger on podcast versus video. Now, video is definitely being consumed a lot more than ever before, but same with podcasting. But I think trend-wise, if you're going to start and have that be a factor, I really do think that podcasting would be it. Now, let's count these out here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 5 and 5. And guys, I did that on purpose, right? Because really, the real answer is both are great. Both are great for different reasons, depending on your niche, who you are, what you feel comfortable with, the kinds of things you want to create. If you want to tell very long stories, you need to do it very well on YouTube with a lot of visual elements to go behind it. Or you could just tell a great story as if you're sitting with a friend in a cafe on a podcast-like thing. So John says, podcasts are easier to learn from while you're driving. True. Podcast is more your own than renting your own space on YouTube. That's true as well. So podcasting, you actually, quote, own that content versus YouTube, which is really reliant on their platform. But YouTube's given you a lot of things to work with, right? The analytics, the findability, just the reach, which podcasting does not. So there are pros and cons to each. And I'm hoping that this video has been helpful for you just to make decisions moving forward. Because a lot of times we make decisions without even knowing what's going on. Hopefully you know a little bit of what's going on now so you can make an informed decision moving forward. Now, I do want to talk a little bit, and right after this point, I'm going to ask you guys a question, and one of your answers will be randomly selected to win to win something. I'll mention that in just a moment. And those of you watching the replay, same thing. I'll ask a follow-up question, a different question. And if you're watching the replay of this, answer that in the comments, and I'll select somebody next week. So the last point is, can you do both? Now, like I said earlier, you shouldn't focus on creating both channels at the same time to start, because that energy is going to be divided between the two, and none of these are going to have a chance to actually give you what it could possibly give you. What I would do is start with one, pick one, based on what we talked about. Master that, get the systems down, the procedures, perhaps hire a team to help you. I mean, I'm at a point now with my podcast where I can just record my voice, and that's all I have to do. Everything else happens because over the last 8 years, I've been able to build systems, and I teach this stuff in my course, Power Up Podcasting. But pick one, and then once you master that and get comfortable and you get that extra time back, then you can potentially focus on getting onto another platform. You can cross over. You can have audio be put into video mode. And if you do that, make sure you have visual elements. Don't just put a card up there with your face on it and then have the audio play. That's not going to be very good for you actually on YouTube, because people are going to click away. There's nothing to look at. There's nothing engaging. That's going to hurt your watch time. That's going to hurt the rest of your channel and the videos from what I've learned. You can take videos and put them onto podcasts, but you got to be careful because you want to make sure that you don't say anything such as, hey, look at this, or what about this thing? On audio, if a person hears that, they're gone because they're feeling like, well, this wasn't even meant for me. This is just regurgitated stuff that I could find elsewhere, and I'm not getting a great listening experience. I feel like each platform has its strengths, and there's different kinds of content that resonate and work best on each, but you can play around with playing on each of them at the same time for the same specific content. There's a couple people who do that very well. Shalene Johnson and also Antonio Centeno from Real Men, Real Style. They repurpose their content very well too. So perhaps we'll do another video later about how one might structure that. But hey, thank you so much for watching this video. Cooking with Kibby says, what about sock puppets? Vid Pro Mom says, YouTube has been huge for me and my blog. Marcus says, this is so incredibly helpful and clarifying. Thank you. Hello, internet does both well. Oh, cool. I thought you were just saying hello to the internet. No, thank you, House. I appreciate that. Yeah, we'll talk about this more, but I'm grateful that you're here. Thank you for sticking around. I appreciate it. I have to finish up because I got to get home to do a workout with my trainer. But before that, I want to ask you guys a question. So I want you to tell me in your own words, if you had to start from scratch and pick one of these, tell me which one you would start, video or podcasting, and why. And I'm going to pick somebody in a minute after you ask this question. I'm also going to ask the replay viewers a different question. So those of you who are watching the replay right now, think about your answer to this question. If you're watching the replay, I'd love to know what demonstrations using this format would you like me to do next? So so again, remember, this is for the replay viewers. If you're watching the replay, answer this question. I'm going to pick one person at random next week. So you got to come back next week, and you could win both a signed copy of Will It Fly, my book, my Wall Street Journal bestseller, and an Ask Pat t-shirt. So first of all, make sure you also take a moment, if you haven't done so already, to subscribe and join Team Flynn. Just hit the subscribe button below, hit the notification bell so you can get notified when the next videos come out. So for those of you watching live, which one of these would you start with and why? There's no wrong answer. Again, like I said, 5 and 5, right? But if you're watching the replay, what kinds of videos would you like me to create in a live format like this where we can interact, but I can also teach and reveal some things at the same time? So I'll pick one of you watching the replay next week when we go live on Friday. So let's see. We got, wow, we got a lot of great answers. I would live stream a podcast so that I can have both. That's another option too, but you also have to be careful with the interaction part. Like if I put this interaction part with you into a podcast, then that wouldn't be very good for a listener as well. But you can strip that part out and edit what goes on the podcast, obviously. And that's what Shalene Johnson does very well. John says, I will start with video because I can compress more information into a YouTube video. Podcast because I have a face for radio, says James. Healthy Christian Mom says, video, it's easier and I feel like I can connect with my audience with visuals. So hopefully those of you even watching the replay now or here in the chats can kind of see other reasonings from other people. So again, thank you so much. So the winner today, I'm going to pick Lyndon Coleman, L-Y-D-A-N, Lyndon. Congratulations, man. Shoot me an email, pat@smartpassiveincome.com. You just won a signed copy of my book, Will It Fly, and also an Ask Pat shirt, which we will send for free to you for being a part of Team Flynn and for being awesome. So he said podcast because you don't have to look good, get it done any time of the day. And again, that was just randomly selected. I just scrolled down and picked somebody at random. So Apple RNB says, call me. Video creators. I do both podcasts and YouTube because they're different tools for different audiences, and you can serve an audience differently with each. I definitely have people, actually, those of you watching this video right now, raise your hand if you listen to the podcast. I think this will prove that a lot of you actually listen and consume on both, which of course strengthens our relationship, and you get stuff on the podcast that you don't get here, and you get stuff here that you don't get on the podcast. So how many of you actually listen to both the podcast and are watching this video right now? So a lot of you, yep. Brooke, hi Brooke. Hustle Headbands, Adams, yep, I listen to. So to Tim's point, you can do both, and you can have different things on each. But again, I wouldn't start with both right at the start. So hey guys, great job today. This was a lot of fun. Thank you so much. Make sure you subscribe to the channel below. We're on our way to the next 100,000 guys, and I'm so glad that you're a part of it with me. Look forward to more videos like this in the future and videos coming next week. We got Roberto Blake coming in the Tesla for Tactics in the Tesla on Tuesday, so look out for that. And guys, I love you guys so much. Take care. Cheers, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye, guys.